We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot, season number 4, episode number 4. As we all got our football fix as the NFL is back. Week number 1 is completed. And man, I was waiting all weekend, man, just waiting on the games. It's a nice full slate. And we had some good football games this weekend. We definitely gonna peel that onion back. First of all, I appreciate your ear. I appreciate all the love and the feedback. And there was a lot of exciting things, man, over the weekend in the football world. Obviously, we'll start off in college. They kicked off on Saturday as Colorado got destroyed by Nebraska. And Shedeur Sanders was running for his life once again. We've seen this story before from Colorado last season. He was running for his life, but he played some outstanding football last year. And there's some pressure on Prime. You know, I think the first year really was the honeymoon year for Colorado. He brought a lot of celebrities out to Boulder. And there was some magic and excitement across the board. And he does have some talent on the skill position areas. Travis Hunter, best two-way football player in the country right now. Definitely a candidate to win the Heisman. And I'm not sure after this loss. And Deion, man, you know, he had this whole situation with the media out there in Boulder, in the Colorado area, Denver area. And this is not a good football team right now. Now, do I think that they'll win more games than they did last season? I absolutely do. But when you rebuild the program, man, came in, they were 1-11 when he started off in Colorado the season before. And rebuilding is hard, especially even with the transfer portal, NIL money. It takes a couple years, man, if your team was 1-11 to have them in a situation where they're competing for the conference and potentially a spot in the college football playoff. So we'll see how that situation unfolds out there in Colorado for Deion and the Colorado Buffaloes. We had an upset special on Saturday as Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois University. Notre Dame came in this game number 5 overall in the AP. And they took an L. And definitely the biggest win in the history of the NIU program. Definitely familiar with the program growing up in the Chicagoland area, Chicago. So I know they're very, very happy up in DeKalb right now. Like I said, it's their biggest win in program history. So shout out to them for Notre Dame. I think they out of the 12-team playoff. I think it's a wrap. Marcus Freeman, he's an okay coach, but at Notre Dame, you're independent. You got your own television deal. You know, you just living that debutante life, and I think it's played. And we're going to see it year after year. You know, a lot of people was a little upset with Brian Kelly, the last coach at Notre Dame, currently at LSU. And I think if you ask most people at Notre Dame, they would trade right now for Brian Kelly. Right now. So I don't know what's going on with Notre Dame, but I definitely do think they're out of the 12-team playoff. They took that L to NIU. Another story across the board came in over the weekend. Big time signing for the Dallas Cowboys. Signed Dak Prescott, 4 years, over $200 million. Makes him the highest paid player in the National Football League. And it's all about timing with these deals. And with the quarterback, next man up is going to be the highest paid dude. That's just how it goes. And so, do I think the Dallas Cowboys need Dak Prescott? Absolutely they do. Do I think that Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback? I don't. But I think he's a good enough quarterback to lead you to a Super Bowl. I mean, we've seen some quarterbacks who won a Super Bowl that was out of the league in a couple of years. So, definitely I think that Dak can get the job done. But the Cowboys are always in their way. But I'm not going to go there, Cowboy fans. I'm not going to rain on the parade. It was a great victory this weekend. So, I'm going to get into that. And as I mentioned, the National Football League week number 1, it jumped off on Thursday. as we had the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Baltimore Ravens. And this is a game that most people feel is going to be another rematch of the AFC Championship game again, as the Chiefs was able to prevail in this one 27-20. It was kind of a remake of last season's AFC Championship game. Now, a lot of people want to rain on Lamar Jackson. Definitely didn't get the job done. Do I think that Kansas City has Baltimore's number? Yes, I do. But I have seen teams be behind the 8 ball against certain teams. We've seen it in college football with Clemson a couple years ago. Couldn't beat Alabama. Finally slayed that dragon. Georgia in the same likeness. Couldn't get past Alabama even though they lost to them last season. But they eventually got past Alabama, won a couple national championships. And so, even though the Ravens took an L, I believe in Baltimore still. I mean, Isaiah Likely, if he had a 10.5, be a touchdown, man. This might be a whole different situation. But I thought that Kansas City, they played well. Pacheco had some pop. Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes. Rashid Rice was outstanding. This defense was outstanding as usual, putting pressure on Lamar. Isaiah Likely having the game of his life. Everybody else was pretty much shut down. Mark Andrews and Flowers and Derrick Henry. There's a lot of talk. A lot of people say he has a lot of miles on him, which he does. He's a big boy, man. And they was able to hold him in check. And so Kansas City celebrated their Super Bowl right before the game. Was able to handle business against the Baltimore Ravens. But I have a feeling that these two teams are going to meet up in the playoffs at some point. And we'll see this contest again, man, down the road. Then we had the Friday night special. NFL kicked off their Friday opening week game. And this was with the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Green Bay Packers. This game was out in Brazil. Outstanding atmosphere. Love to be in Brazil, man. Love to be in Brazil around this time of the year. Definitely, I know a lot of you guys would as well. But it was good vibes out in Brazil as the Eagles was able to knock off the Packers 34-29. Big story of this game. We had the injury. Jordan Love looked a little bad when I saw it in live action and a couple replay shots during the game. But it appears it's going to be out at least probably about 3 to 4 weeks, it's looking like. And that's huge for the Packers because Malik Willis, they just got him off the street a couple weeks ago. And there's a lot of question marks about this guy up in Tennessee. So, not sure what the Packers going to do in the interim. But Philadelphia looked good. And it was all about Saquon Barkley. He set the tone from the beginning of the game. He allowed the other weapons from Philadelphia to eat. A.J. Brown, big 60-yard touchdown reception. You had Devontae Smith getting into action. And so I like this team. I thought that the defense, though, still couldn't hold water, though. They still got some boxes to check on the defensive end, especially in the back half of the defense. I thought Jalen Hurts, I thought he played okay. Now, obviously, he had a couple turnovers, didn't look good. But I think with Saquon Barkley, man, he's a table setter. I think that that's a gift that's going to keep on giving throughout the season. And so Philadelphia was able to hold off the Packers 34-29. Then we traveled down to Atlanta, man, as the Atlanta Falcons took on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As the Steelers was able to win this game 18-10. We had Russell Wilson be a scratch, starting to Justin Fields. Definitely an Atlanta area guy. Know it was a huge homecoming for him as he was able to hold off the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm not going to say that the Steelers, their offense was looking pristine or nothing like that. But it's Mike Thompson. And shout out, first of all, to Chris Boswell, the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he did an outstanding job. He was the MVP of the game. Definitely should have gave him a game ball. Najee Harris had 70 yards on the ground. They was able to get a little offense in. Pickens had a couple good catches, a couple good throws too by Justin Fields. But he was under 200 yards. But he didn't turn the ball over, man. And that's huge for Justin Fields. For him, it's all about the turnovers, man. He was able to protect the football. For the Falcons, he had the debut of Kirk Cousins. And it didn't start off well for Kirk Cousins as he looked at Very, 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 very terrible in this game to me, from a standpoint of the expectations. Now, we know that the Pittsburgh Steelers have an outstanding defense. Shout out to TJ Watt. He was a menace again on Sunday. But I thought they did a good job as far as getting Bijan his necessary carries. He was able to hit him out the backfield a few times, threw a touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts. Drake London was pretty much on a milk carton all game. And so with the Falcons, it's really game to game with them. They're definitely in the division in the NFC South. I think that they can win. But they took the L on Sunday to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we moved to a game that I thought was going to be one of the most exciting games of the weekend. I actually picked this team to go into road territory and knock off. And I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills and the Arizona Cardinals, as the Bills was able to win this game 34-28. Josh Allen put on a Superman cape again, ran for 2 touchdowns, threw for 2 touchdowns. Bills had to come back in this game, though. They definitely made them earn that money. They had an outstanding second half, putting up 24 points in the second half for Buffalo. And there was a lot of question marks about Buffalo, especially on the offensive end. You know, they've had a few departures, basically their top 2 receivers from last season, in Diggs. Primarily him going down to Houston. Gabe Davis, dipping and going to Jacksonville. And they held the fort down as far as the offense is concerned. Now, for the most part, Josh Allen, he's capable of being Superman. But for me, it's really with him, it's just about the bonehead turnovers with Josh Allen. If you don't turn the football over, he'll have a game like this pretty much every week for Buffalo. I was impressed with the Cardinals. They fought in this football game. They had to lead for a moment. Second half, the wheels kind of fell off just a little bit. We had the debut of Marvin Harrison Jr. He didn't do nothing at all. I think he had 1 reception. So it was a dud game for him. Welcome to the NFL, Rook. And I was impressed by Buffalo. I ain't going to front. It was a good victory for them. They could have easily gotten knocked off in this game, but they held the fort down, man. So shout out to Buffalo. Then we travel to my neck of the woods, man, as the Chicago Bears took on the Tennessee Titans. As the Bears was able to knock off the Titans 24-17, we had the debut of Caleb Williams, and it was a rough start for Caleb Williams. I thought that this offense was out of sync. And I think that they're still trying to kind of figure a few things all out. Nothing to me glaring per se. It's just really about the timing and the game speed. And for Caleb Williams, it's his first NFL game. I think the most important part for him, he didn't turn the football over. And this defense, it was a tale of 2 halves. In the first half, they were looking, unorganized a little bit. Gave up a long touchdown to the tight end from Tennessee. And second half, they was locking it all the way down. Especially on special teams, the big block and the recovery by Jonathan Owens. And boys, he had a great last month. Husband of Simone Biles, so good play for him. And the Bears was able to win this game, like I said, 24-17. Man, Will Levis, I'm still trying to figure out what you was trying to do with the football, man, on that play late in the fourth quarter where he gave up the pick 6. Big time win for the Bears. This is like old school Bear football. I thought the Bears could have ran the ball a little bit better. But, the defense, we're used to the defense winning games in Chicago. I think that for the Bears, I think week number 2 will be a little bit more fruitful for Caleb Williams. We had Rome Odunze also too making his debut for the Chicago Bears. Appears he got like a little baby knee injury. Still trying to get some intel on that. I think he had an MRI today. So definitely going to see what Rome do moving forward, man. And hopefully he's all right. But the Bears got an opening day victory. It's the first opening day victory for a rookie quarterback in 22 years, man. So big time win. That's all the Bears needed to kick off the season on a positive note. Then we had a game, as I previewed in the last episode. I thought that it was going to be not one of the big anticipated games, but I thought that this may be a competitive game. And boy, was I right. As the Cincinnati Bengals took on the New England Patriots, as the Patriots was able to win this game 16-10. Here we go with Cincinnati again. This team is notorious for slow starts of the season. They definitely looked it slow. Joe Burrow, last season he got hurt. He was out for the season during the latter part of the year. He threw for under 200 yards. Man, good thing about New England, they played old school football. They was able to run the ball. Rhamondre Stevenson had 120 yards and a touchdown in this game. Like how they was able to control kind of the time of possession. Also, we had Jamar Chase still waiting to be paid. I mean, can we just break this man off already, man? For real, for real. And, he had a pretty good game, 62 yards on 6 receptions. And I think that Cincinnati, like I said, they're notorious for slow starts. I'm not going to push the panic button just yet. I think the last couple of years they've been 0-2, man. Was able to get out of that hole. They're definitely one of the tougher divisions in the National Football League. But I was impressed by the Patriots, man. As Gerard Mayo made his head coaching debut, was able to snag a victory in that. And so, good little look for New England, man. Maybe there is some hope in New England this season. We definitely see about that, though. Then we had a game that I thought also was going to be on my top 3 games as most exciting game to watch. I think both of these teams can definitely be sneaky. And I think one of these teams, a lot of people have high hopes for them. I got them going to the AFC Championship game this year. And we had the Houston Texans taking on the Indianapolis Colts, as the Texans was able to pull this one out 29-27. Man, this was some good quarterback play. Stroud versus Richardson. 2 different styles. Richardson, man, just out there looking like a cyborg, man. I mean, this guy is throwing 70-yard passes on a rope. I mean, this guy, raw talent is just undeniable. For him, it's just all about locking down, man, doing, the smaller things and those intermediate throws and the accuracy for him and not turning the football over. This is a thing, man, especially for these young quarterbacks. They don't turn the football over. You get more pop out of them. He definitely had a good football game. Anthony Richardson did. Jonathan Taylor did all right on the ground. We had Alex Pierce catching a long touchdown for them. He had 125 yards. Good debut game for him in week number 1. For the Houston Texans, like I said, I have high hopes for this team. I think this team can definitely get to the AFC Championship game. And Stroud had a pretty good game. 234 yards and 2 tuds. But to me, on offense, man, it was all about Joe Mixon, man. I mean, my Lord, man, they gave that ball to him 30 times, man, for 159 yards and a touchdown. And Joe Mixon, still a young football player, man. This guy's only 27 years old, man. And I think that he could be that piece. Diggs caught a touchdown, too. And so I'm liking what Houston doing. Good time and a good time move for them picking up those free agent acquisitions and also making some other moves on the defensive end. But like I said, good win for them. DeMeco Ryans definitely showing his worth down in Houston. Big time divisional win for them. Then we traveled to a game that I called the Battle of Florida. We had the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Miami Dolphins, as the Dolphins was able to win this close game, which I thought it was going to be close coming into this game, 20-17. Shout out to Jason Sanders, the kicker for the Dolphins, hitting that 52-game field goal. The time expired, as the Dolphins was able to rally and get past the Jacksonville Jaguars. The biggest story of this game was before the game, with the whole situation with Tyreek Hill. Got pulled over on a traffic stop around the corner from the stadium. Turned into a whole situation. And, man, I mean, it's just one of those situations, man, regardless of the status that you have. Definitely the interaction with law enforcement has been well chronicled. I mean, we've all seen the stories. Some of us have been through a few of those stories and or situations. And I'm just glad, first of all, nobody got hurt. I'm glad that Tyreek was able to play this football game, and he was outstanding. 7 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. This man's just the best wide receiver in the National Football League. And from a standpoint of just straight out speed, man, nobody can catch this guy. And the Dolphins, it was a big-time win for them. Like I said, it was the Battle of Florida. Tua threw for 300 and a touchdown. I think he played well. And the Dolphins, like I said, it was a big-time win for them. They're going starting their year 1-0 in the Battle of Florida. Then we had a game that these are 2 teams. One of these teams, I called them an enigma because I couldn't figure them out. Another team, I know this team is the worst team in the National Football League, is talking about the New Orleans Saints taking on the Carolina Panthers. And man, the Saints ran away with this game. I thought they was going to score 60 in this game, but they ended up winning 47-10. Derek Carr looked like old Derek Carr. Just was talking about Derek Carr in my last episode. I thought that for him, if he can get back to the Raiders version of Derek Carr, at least 85-90% of that, I think that the Saints are a dark horse of winning that division. He had Alvin Kamara looking like Alvin Kamara, and this offense was popping, man. For Carolina, like I said, man, it's the worst team in the National Football League. I mean, it's just devoid of talent on both sides of the football, and they just in a rebuild. They might get the number one pick again. They may get it again. I don't think we've ever seen in the history of the National Football League a team get the number one pick in 3 consecutive seasons. They traded that. We traded that pick over to them from Chicago one of those years, but still, I mean, it's just a tough situation, and I don't have too much to say, man, about Carolina, man. It's just all about picking up the pieces for them, and we'll see if this team can show up next week and look like a legitimate football club, man. But the Saints was able to run through Carolina once again, 47-10. Then we had the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. The Vikings starting Sam Darnold. For me, I think this is Sam Darnold's last time of being a starter in the National Football League to be able to prove it. You know, Sam Darnold's always had the talent. He's had an outstanding arm, even going back to USC. Just hadn't been able to get in good situations for him in the NFL so far in his career. And he came out and he played some good football, man. Threw a couple touchdowns. Vikings was able to win this game 28-6. Man, the Giants. Ooh, boy, New York. The Giants, man, this team is garbage on offense. And it's well chronicled. I said that the Giants made a mistake in signing Daniel Jones to the contract. I think this guy is a backup NFL quarterback, and he showed it again on Sunday. I just think that this team is just inept on offense. You know, drafted Malik Nabers. He had a few catches in this football game, but this game was over pretty much after the first quarter for me, as the Vikings once again went out and won this game 28-6. Their defense played outstanding. Even though they played the Giants, I was very impressed by the Vikings defense in this football game. Got them a pick 6 for a touchdown in this game. So they're looking pretty nice. The Vikings looking pretty nice. For the Giants, let's pick up the pieces for y'all, man. Then we travel out to what I call Charger land, man. The Chargers took on the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, as the Chargers was able to win this game 22-10. I thought the Raiders would win this football game. Harbaugh in his first forte back in the National Football League, his first game for the Chargers, and showed his worth. I mean, this guy's a roll-up-the-sleeve guy, and we saw it with Dobbins having 125 yards and a touchdown for the Chargers. For the Raiders, for me, man, it's just their offense. It just looked as it did last season. Now, they brought in Gardner Minshew just to try to see if this situation can be better for them. And didn't look it. We had Antonio Pierce, who I have confidence, man, that this guy can be a good head football coach. But this team, man, is looking like a one-man show on offense. And the Chargers was able to get this victory 22-10. Then travel to another divisional game to kick off the season. They had the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Denver Broncos, as the Seahawks was able to win this game 26-20. And I knew the Seahawks would win this game. I had a feeling this was going to be a competitive game. You know, Sean Payton, he trying to rally the troops out in Denver. This is the debut of Bo Nix. And Bo Nix, he looked like a rookie. He had a rushing touchdown in this football game, but overall, I thought that the Seahawks played good defense, especially in the second half, only giving up 7 points to the Broncos in the second half. We had Kenneth Walker having a bill on the ground for the Seahawks. We had Lockett, having a couple good catches. And Seattle, they one of those enigma teams. I think that, for them, it's the start of a new regime out there. They moved on from Pete Carroll last year. And we'll see. The Seahawks could be a sneaky team this season, man. We have to see about them, man. Then we had a game that I was excited to see on paper. I was really excited to see this game on paper. And I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns, as the Cowboys was able to win this game 33-17. We had Dak Prescott getting broke off with that big bag of money before the game. I thought that Dak played okay. I think that Cleveland has an outstanding defense, is well documented. I have a lot of affinity for them defensive pieces that they got in Cleveland, but they have a weakness, And to me, their biggest weakness is their secondary. And it showed in this game. And, for me, I just think that Cleveland, they're a whole situation. They're a whole situation, especially when we talk about Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately, got the news he got another lawsuit just thrown out into the atmosphere down in Texas. He looked terrible in this football game. They owe this guy a big bag of money. They restructured with him a little bit at the beginning, right before the beginning of the regular season. And he didn't look good at all. Now, obviously, it's a tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, especially with their defense. Michael Parsons was looking like a cyborg out there. I mean, man, he was just making plays across the board for them. A lot of people, said Dallas, Cleveland. Look, man, people had high hopes on Cleveland. Especially from a defensive standpoint. Didn't expect the Cowboys to go and put up 33 on Cleveland to start the season off, but it was a good win. And I know the Cowboys fans was definitely excited about this win, kicking off their season debut, going 1-0 on the season for the Cowboys. Then they had another game that I thought was going to be an interesting game. This team, one of these teams that made an outstanding run last year, getting to the divisional or the NFC, and I'm talking about the Tampa Bay Bucks pulling out a 37-20 win over the Washington Commanders. And it was one of those situations where Jaden Daniels, his debut game for the Washington Commanders at quarterback, I thought he looked like a rookie. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just thought that they still kind of had the training wheels on for him a little bit. And Baker Mayfield was living his best life. I mean, 4 touchdowns, man, outstanding throws to Mike Evans. Mike Evans is just the watch that keep on ticking, man. Keep on ticking. Very impressed by this win by the Bucks. I think that for them, they're one of those teams where the NFC South, I think that they can get through that division again and get themselves in the playoffs. It's really all about the play of Baker Mayfield. Like I said, I think he did an outstanding job. Chris Godwin got into play a little bit. And the Bucks, Todd Bowles, I like the ship that they're running down there in Tampa, man. Good, impressive win for them to start the season. Then we had what I call the big heavyweight games. Man, good scheduling with these games. I had to tip my hat to the National Football League. I think they did a good job with the matchups in week number 1. And we had the Sunday night game, the Detroit Lions taking on the Los Angeles Rams, as the Lions was able to win this game 26-20 at home. And this was a good football game. We had the battle of the quarterbacks who was traded for each other. Thought that was just, a good little caveat to this football game. Like I said, the Lions was able to hold the fold in this one. And I thought that they played big boy football, man. This game kind of reminded me of a boxing match. Well, one guy was going for the head, and the other guy was going for the body. And that's the Detroit Lions, man. They went to the body, squeezed this game out. Montgomery, I think they did a good job with him, mixing up, just with him and Gibbs. And I just think that, for me, Jared Goff, he just made the plays that he needed to make in this football game. Definitely got to put some respect on Jameson Williams' name. This kid was outstanding. 5 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. I thought he was a big-time talent at University of Alabama. Got hurt in the national championship game, blown ACL. But this guy has a lot of talent and a lot of speed, and we seen it on display. I thought that the defense for the Lions, they played good football when they needed to. Dan Campbell, did a good coaching job in this football game. Didn't turn himself into the riverboat gambler. And it was a good victory for the Lions, man, knocking off the Rams 26-20. Then we got Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football, definitely a game with 2 passionate fan bases and 2 teams that a lot of people feel this may be a Super Bowl preview. I don't know about all of that. I could only say that really about one of these teams who I predicted to win the Super Bowl this season, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. They was able to knock off the New York Jets 32-19. And this was a game, for me, if I had to sum it up in a few words, time of possession. The 49ers dominated the time of possession, running the football. The Jets defense to me, they wasn't getting the necessary pressure on Brock Purdy. And the Niners was able to go to all the weapons that they got. And they was minus their main weapon, which was Christian McCaffrey. You know, he was a scratch before the game. Jordan Mason went out there and I mean, he looked like Christian McCaffrey. And he did an outstanding job having 147 yards in this football game, also to a touchdown. He had Aaron Rodgers, who we haven't seen in 2 years on a football field. I thought he was a little ginger. You know, I just thought that, you know, he was kind of, I wouldn't say playing the cards to the vest a little bit, but you can definitely tell that he had been out for a minute and still trying to kind of get himself back into what I call game situation and game condition. I thought that the Jets, they were trying to run the ball early in the game, but the Niners, man, they was able to stifle the running game a little bit. You know, and the Jets, they came out and scored the first touchdown of this game. I mean, it was a good drive. I know Jets fans, you know, was waiting a long time for a drive like that. Very, very efficient. And that was basically it. After that, man, San Francisco closed the door. Like I said, their offense was looking like a fine-tuned machine. You know, I thought that the Jets, with their defense, man, a lot of people big on the Jets defense, and I like their defense. I mean, they got some talented pieces. You know, they lost Sean, you know, not lost, but he didn't play. You know, Reddick, who they got from the Eagles via trade. And I think he also, too, made a nice little bag of money by not even playing. Because the Jets, to me, they weren't able to get to the 49ers as far as their pass rush is concerned. And I think that for Brock Purdy, not saying, you know, he's, you know, John Elway or nobody like that, Dan Marino or nobody like that, Patrick Mahomes or nobody like that. But if you get this guy time and with the weapons that San Francisco 49ers that they have, especially with Shanahan calling the plays, yeah, you're gonna be in a tough situation. And I think that the Jets, they learned the hard way as they got knocked off, man, traveling out there to San Francisco 32-19. And it was an exciting first week of football. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, want to get into overreaction mode, want to get into the sky's falling mode. But I just think that it's just one weekend, man. I'm not going to hit the panic button on none of really the performances from what I call players who didn't play well type of move. I'm not going to go there just yet. Now, there was some heat on Robert Saleh, and I think that heat, definitely for him, you know, he in a one-year situation. I mean, he got to get it done this season, at least get this team into the playoffs. If not, you know, he ain't going to be on the guillotine. Everybody know that. So I don't think that there was some, what I call crazy moments as far the sky's falling type of move. We did have the injury to Puka Nacua for the Rams, and looks like he's going to be out probably about a month, man. And this guy had that lingering knee issue going back to training camp. He was nicked up a little bit towards the end of last season. But I like overall what I saw, you know, especially from the teams that I thought that were kind of favored. Now, we had a few what you consider betting upsets across week number 1. But overall, man, I thought it was a good week of football. And for the teams that, you know, took an L on Sunday, definitely bounce back next week, man, and get your situation together. So that's week number 1. And it was an exciting week. Can't wait for week number 2 across the National Football League. And before we get out of here, I'm debuting back for the first time season my NFL Big 5 Power Rankings after week number 1. And we're going to get right into it. We're going to get right into this one. Because I got at number 5. I got the Houston Texans at number 5. This is a team that I predicted, I believe, would get to the AFC Championship game. You know, they was able to handle business in a divisional win against the Indianapolis Colts in a tight game. I thought that was good for them the first game out. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from Houston. The additions that they made to this football team. They've been putting in work. Good week for them. And I think they're going to have a good season again this year. And like I said, I expect them to make a deep playoff run this year in the AFC, man. The Houston Texans coming in at number 5. Number 4, a team that literally was a couple players away from getting to the Super Bowl last season. Know they got a sour taste in their mouth, and they had a very, very gutty win over the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football, and that's the Detroit Lions. Big time win for them. I think that this team can obviously play better. especially to me on the offensive end, because St. Brown didn't, have one of his best games. So I think there's still room to grow on the offensive end. Sam Laporta, he didn't get a lot of action in that game. I think his biggest play was getting the penalty, going into that situation late in the fourth quarter for them. But the Lions, I got them coming in at number 4. I think that this is a team that can definitely win the NFC North again, say this season. And they looking as advertised, man. Big time win for them and Dan Campbell, man. I got the Lions coming in at number 4. Number 3. This is a team that fell off a cliff last year. It wasn't because of the talent. And I just think that this team, I think they can get themselves back to the NFC Championship game, at least in the NFC, because I got them predicted to do so this season. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Big time win for them over in Brazil, winning 34-29 over the Packers. That was a good football game. I got them coming in at number 3. I just think that for this team, it's really about the secondary, man. They looked a little leaky, man, on the back half of their defense. To tighten that up, Saquon Barkley, big time debut game for him for Philadelphia. I thought that, Smith and Brown, they looked typical Smith and Brown. Hurts had a couple turnovers, but I think Jalen will be fine, man. So I got Philadelphia coming in at number 3 this week. Number 2, this is a team that lost in the Super Bowl last year, had an outstanding game on Monday Night Football. Offense was looking like a well-tuned machine, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. Even without Christian McCaffrey, looked like the guy wasn't missed at all in this football game, at least. And for him to get back in the fold, hopefully, he's healthy. Looked like it was just a precautionary situation for the 49ers. And so I got the Niners, man, coming in at number 2. They look rock solid. It was an impressive win for them, especially taking on the Jets team that a lot of people felt like they had a definite chance of winning this football game coming in. They was able to, hold their deck down, man, for the week number 1. So I got the Frisco Niners, man, at number 2. And at number 1, team that, I ain't going to say they're America's team, no disrespect to the Dallas Cowboys, but definitely a team that on rockstar mode right now and looking to win their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Big time win for them over the Baltimore Ravens last Thursday. And I'm impressed by this defense. I think the defense looked solid. I think the offense, I think they're still, I ain't going to say they're a work in progress, but I definitely think there's a lot of pop to this offense. You had Worthy having a huge game for them. And I just think that for this team, it's really about being healthy and just taking advantage what I call it, that low-hanging fruit. And I thought that the Baltimore Ravens in that matchup on Thursday, their offense kind of got bogged down a little bit, and Kansas City took full advantage of it, winning a close football game that came down to the end. And so that's my NFL Big 5 power rankings after week number 1. Like I said, this has been an outstanding week for all football lovers across the globe. And hope you guys had a great weekend enjoying some good football, as we got week number 2 on the horizon. Definitely going to fall back through for the end of the week to preview week number 2 and my look and everything across the sporting landscape, because we cover all sports across the board. It's just football came back and we was on one. So definitely, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast. The spot.